Touchdown! 910 Sports with Ikon E, the podcaster who speaks his mind. Not afraid to go against the grain. The podcast that will make you think while discussing the latest topics in the NBA, NFL, college football, basketball, and more. Giving the latest interviews and spotlighting the youth of today and tomorrow. And the coaches who put it all together while building championship programs.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Ikon. And we're here once again on 910 Sports. This week seven of 910 Sports. We have a special guest about to come on here in a minute. Another great wrestler, or whatever. His partner's running late today, so he should be on here in a little bit. But we're gonna I know we got a lot of great games that came over the weekend. While everybody is coming on, plug a couple things right fast. We have 910 Sports Reloaded on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. That's our secondary show with the reviews, all the games from the weekend. It's on the Stereo app. So if you want to, please subscribe to our Stereo app. And you can also be able to support us there also. So he goes, man, I'm just saying now. Get this brother on. How you doing, brother? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Your volume's low. Turn your volume up. I still can't. I don't hear anything. No, I don't hear you.
There we go. Now you should hear me.
There we go. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for having me.
Okay. No problem. It's a pleasure of mine to have you here this morning. When I first put this together, of course, my brother, and he was telling me about you or whatever, and some of your accomplishments or whatever, and I just was happy to be able to have you on, be on a lot of different platforms, but you chose to be on mine. And, we just getting started. To be honest with you, we've had some success, but we just getting started. So anyway, man, we're gonna get right into it. First of all, I just thank God for this opportunity to be able to come on here, because God didn't have to allow me to come on here to be able to have this great platform. So we're gonna get into it, and also I thank all the fans who are listening, because you could have been anywhere else and you decided to come here. So to start your morning. So anyway, let's get into your story, man. How did this all start for you? As a kid, how old were you when you first started this process of like, I want to be a wrestler?
Yeah, I think if I recall, my mom said that my dad put me in front of the TV when I was like 3 years old, and wrestling happened to be on. He's not even really a wrestling fan. I think it was just on television. So I think he just put me on the floor and I was watching television, and then I just got hooked ever since then, and it never went away. I know that my mom and my dad thought that I was just like kind of gonna grow out of it at some point, but that wasn't the case. And it was always a dream growing up as a kid, and then you start to learn about life and different careers and stuff like that, and you're like, yeah, I don't know if I still want to do this. I really love wrestling, but I'm like, I don't know if, maybe I'll play basketball, or maybe I'll play baseball. These other things started coming in. But it wasn't until, I want to say my junior year of high school, I actually met somebody by the name of Bud Carson, who owned his own pro wrestling, like, memorabilia store. He would sell, like, merchandise and different things. And he had a ring in the back of his shop because at the time the Wild Samoans were training out of there. They were using his building, and he took me to the back. He showed me the ring, and he's like, "Yeah, do you want to get in it?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, absolutely." And that was my first time ever going inside the ring. And all I did was, I still remember, I touched the top rope, and I just grabbed onto it, and that was it. Boom, right there. It was this weird, like, it was just this weird like switch into my brain as soon as I like physically touched the ring of like, no, this is what you want to do. And then it was from then on like, no, yeah, this is all I want to do. So so like I said, it started as a little kid, and then I still wanted to do it as I was getting older, and then that was the moment where it was like, no, my mind's made up.
Okay. So what age were you when you was able to get to a position where you could kind of take it seriously and know it was something that you can actually obtain?
So I started training actually my senior year of high school. Um, I since I had still was in touch with Bud Carson, I ended up finding out that at the time, the Wild Samoans had left his building, so he was no longer renting to anybody, and he had his own wrestling ring. And he's like, I'm thinking about starting up my own wrestling school. And it's a funny story actually because at the time, again, it was like coming up on the end of my senior year. So my dad had told me that, he wanted to take me and my high school sweetheart on like a trip or something to, go celebrate that I was graduating, or that we were graduating, excuse me. And he's he wanted to do a cruise, and my girlfriend at the time, she didn't like cruises. So I was like, well, if you don't mind, I'm like, maybe you can just give me, a couple bucks, and then her and I can, go on our own trip. So he was like, here, I'll give you $500. You and your girlfriend can go plan a trip or go do something. So then, again, at the same time, that's when Bud was reaching out to me. He's like, I think I'm going to start my own wrestling school. And then, him and I finally had a sit down meeting. He's like, no, this is going to happen. We're going to start our own wrestling school. And he's like, I want you to be one of the first students. And I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm like, well, how much is this going to cost? And he goes, well, how much do you have to put down? I'm like, I have $500 I can put down. So I had to call my girlfriend like literally after I left, and I was like, hey, we're not going on vacation anymore.
Hmm. Wow. Oh, wow. So, um, what do you feel like was like some of your biggest accomplishments that you had so far since you've been in the wrestling?
I mean, for me personally, um, there's a lot of like personal accomplishments, not necessarily that be something to write down on paper or publish in a magazine or something of that sort, to put on a resume. Because for me, like a cool accomplishment for me has been being able to work some of my friends that both went professional. We were able to wrestle into the same building that we went to as kids, so I thought that was really cool for me. I was able to go back to my old high school and do a show. I thought that was really cool for me. So there's some like personal accomplishments. I mean, everybody can always say, like I got to be on WWE, I got to be on Ring of Honor, I've gotten to do overseas tours, I've been in Pro Wrestling Illustrated, numerous amounts of times. I've been ranked in their top 500 numerous amounts of times. So those are all amazing accomplishments as well. But the personal ones for me are just as amazing.
Okay. Cool. So what do you expect? Like, what are you like your ultimate goal? Like, what's your ultimate, like in your mind as far as career? Everybody's career, you have a goal.
Yeah.
Like, what's your ultimate goal to get to at some point?
I just want wrestling to be my full-time thing. That's my main goal. And the reason that I word it the way that I do is because, for the past, because I've been next month it'll be 15 years that I've been doing this. So for, the previous 14, 13 years, there was only WWE. So it was, yeah, I want to be a WWE, wrestler, and that's all. That's of course, the goal. I want to be at WrestleMania, and but now within the paradigm shift that is professional wrestling in the past year and a half, 2 years, however long it's been now, that all elite wrestling is now a major player, and very fast
Mhm.
they've become a major player, and it's been amazing to see just how successful they've been in the short amount of time that they've been doing it. And so now you can't say the words like I want to be a WWE professional wrestler because there's other options. And that's great for all of us that are within the industry, because now there's multiple outlets that we're able to make this a full-time job. So that's why I say the words like, I want to be a full-time professional wrestler, or I want wrestling to at least be my full-time job, because it's what I'm most passionate about. And it's something that I know when I go to work every day, it's not going to be work, because this is all I've ever wanted to do.
Yeah. So how did you create your characters? Because I kind of read up on you a little bit. So I know you got like two different characters. You have like a heel character and you have the good guy character. So I got us a two-part question. How did you create both characters? And which character do you like playing the most?
So at the beginning of my career, I called myself KeKoa, the Flying Hawaiian, and it was doing all right for me. But every time that I was getting in front of these major companies, it seemed like they're like, yeah, he can get us to here, but we need somebody that can get us to here. So it wasn't like a main event type person. It wasn't like it wasn't a fully developed character. I was very generic, and looking back, oh yeah, they were absolutely right. And it wasn't until I was about like 9 years in or 8 years in that I tore my ACL. And when I tore my ACL, that was like the shift of like, okay, I've been doing this for a little bit now. I keep getting those same answers. I'm injured, so here's the time that I can sit down and kind of like reinvent myself and come up with a new character, come up with a new persona, but still be me at the same time. So my first initial idea was my heel character, which is the Warrior King, King KeKoa. The reason that I came up with that character is because, excuse me, I was reading up on King Kamehameha, the original king of Hawaii. He was actually the one that united the Hawaiian Islands. He's got colleges named after him, and a statue of him in Hawaii. He's a god essentially. Well, as I'm reading up on him, I'm reading this one story that, he took his two kids, or however many kids he had, excuse me. He took his kids to the top of a volcano the night before a battle, and he threw his kids down into the volcano to sacrifice them to the gods in order to win a war. And I'm like, that's some bad guy shit. Like, what? Like, why is this guy being, so celebrated? If he did these bad things, I get it. It was for the bigger picture, but I'm like, he killed his own kids. I'm like, that's some terrible crap. So then it was easy in my head of like, well, imagine a king character sacrificing his own blood in order to win a war, or in order to win the heavyweight championship, or whatever is in front of him. And I'm like, man, so if he's able to do that, like, what would he sacrifice to win what he's truly passionate about? So I'm like, oh, that's a bad guy character. So then that's where the Warrior King, King KeKoa, came about, and I was essentially mirroring the look of King Kamehameha with his robe. A lot of Hawaiian warriors would wear these gourds as helmets. So I got a helmet made similar. It wasn't out of a gourd or anything like that. It was kind of like a new look type thing. So that's how he came about. And then, unfortunately for me, since I had been a good guy for so long, that when I became a bad guy, people were like, I don't want to boo you. Like, I already know who you are. I love you. And I don't want to boo you. And then on top of it, my helmet, my robe, all of my gear that I had just gotten, then the people that do like bad guys are like, oh, they're like, your stuff's too badass for me to boo. Like, I don't want to hate you. And so it was a little tough for me because of, the fan base that I did build, and because my stuff looked cool. So then it was a lot of promotions were like, yeah, we don't really want you to be a bad guy anymore. We want you to go back to being a good guy. Because it's very hard to be a good baby face. It's very, very hard.
Because it's kind of funny because and Hulk Hogan, for years, everybody know for probably 20, 25 years of his career,
Yeah.
whatever it was, he was the good guy. He was the one that, the vitamins and all this stuff with the kids. And then he went hooked up with NWO. And then all of a sudden he comes out with all the black on it. And I remember telling my brother, I said it was like, it was cool, but it was kind of like weird and corny all at the same time. So it was like, I don't know really how to take Hulk Hogan as a bad guy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it was kind of weird. So I get it. I get it on that aspect. So and this one I want to ask you too, because I watched like a couple of documentaries, and because like over the last couple of years, I feel like wrestling. I guess they understand that fans understand what it is. It's entertainment, so they
Mhm.
let you behind the curtain a little bit more than they would maybe 15, 20 years ago
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
whatever. So, my thing is like when you these characters. And as fans, we see certain things that as far as like how thing dynamics have changed.
Hmm.
And one of the things I noticed, and I think I was telling Caprice last week when he was on the show, I said that a lot of these characters are not believable.
Hmm.
So I think, and when I'm watching some of these documentaries and stuff, they talk about I think a lot of success comes from a person when they create a character. It's almost like acting now. So
Hmm.
you have to create this character that people can believe and get behind. Like you said, with your characters, people saw you one way, and then it took you a minute to kind of figure out and navigate to go the other way. And at the same time, of course, that comes from a mindset of you being believable. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? So in your mind, what what over the last 15 years that you've been wrestling that you've seen that's kind of different? It's almost like that old school cat to say, man, back in the day, they used to let you hit in football or they used to let you hand check in basketball. So what have you seen over the last 15 years that you would like, oh man, we need to go back to this, or kind of like things that kind of throw you off a little bit?
I think the number one thing for me is being a little more strict or having some type of diversity between people that want to be professional wrestlers and that's their goal. That's like their passion, their number one thing. And then we have people that are within the professional wrestling world that just want to do this, like they just want to do it on the weekend, they just want to do it for fun, and that's all fine. Like I'm all for people being able to chase their dreams or their hobbies, whatever it is that they want to do. But the problem is we get mixed, and the problem that I have with that is because it's kind of like I'll compare it to a football player. you know if you take a guy like Tom Brady and you say, hey, we're going to go play flag football, on the weekend with a couple of my buddies, and you show up and all the buddies are drinking, you know what I mean? Like, it's fun for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're just out there to have a good time. Tom Brady's out there to be the best in the world. It's two different mindsets, it's two different styles
Mm-hmm.
of play. And for me,
Exactly.
I want to be on that top tier. I want to be with the
Mm-hmm.
best because I take this 100,000% serious. And and again, it's fine to have those two worlds, but when you mix them, it doesn't go well. And it's been a transition for me to shift my mindset to always remember when I am talking to somebody or when I'm working with somebody that they may or may not be on the level of mindset that I am of how we are going to approach this. Um, so I think that's for me. I do agree that a lot of anybody should be welcomed in the world of professional wrestling, because before it was very strict. Like there's those old stories of Hulk Hogan where like they broke his leg to see if he would even come back. That's a little extreme
Mm.
for me.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a little extreme. Like, I'm not saying that by any means. I just wish that there was independent wrestling and then professional wrestling, because
Mm-hmm.
I dub myself as a professional wrestler. When I see
Exactly.
people that are independent wrestlers dubbing themselves as professionals, that annoys the hell out of me, because I
Yeah.
know that our mindsets are two completely different things. And again, it's fine with what you want to do and how you want to handle your career, but we are two different people, in my opinion. So that's
And
really
it,
the only thing. I just wish that there was some type of more separation so that and that's essentially the game of trying to get into these companies that do take it more serious, so that you are surrounding yourself with that type of mindset, which is why I'm so thankful for MCW, because MCW in Maryland, we do take things to that level. We are very strict with what we do and how we do things. And that's the reason I think that MCW is so successful, because we hold ourselves to that high regard.
and it seemed like that would get you hurt too. That would get that car can cause more injuries if you got somebody that's always into it, that's always focused in what they need to do when they get in that ring, versus somebody that's halfway in and halfway out, like they say in professional, like in football or whatever, or boxing. You can't be You can't be halfway retired or halfway in and out because you get yourself killed, you get yourself hurt. And no matter what people think about wrestling, it's a very physical, demanding sport or whatever. So at the end of the day, when you have people who like yourself who maybe have a mindset like a Tom Brady, then you have somebody else who has a mindset like whoever, like a Kyrie Irving, who you don't know if he wants to be there or not. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, okay, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So, I get that part. So
Yeah,
like,
and it's and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
go ahead.
It has happened that way because, to give you a prime instance, um, coming out of the pandemic, the world got shut down. We weren't able to do anything, and now we're just starting to open back up. We're just starting to be able to do certain things. Well, who treated the pandemic as an excuse and who treated the pandemic as a hurdle? Two completely
Mhm.
different things. So there's people that treated the pandemic as, well, I can't do any wrestling shows. Well, I can't go to the gym. Guess I'm going to be a fat slob. Like, that's essentially what it was. And
Exactly.
don't get me wrong, that first month, that when the world shut down, I ate whatever the hell I wanted. I didn't work out for a little bit. But then I knew after I got it out of my system for that first couple weeks, I'm like, okay, well, the world will eventually open back up. So I
Exactly.
need to stay in shape because when the world does open back up, I don't want to miss a beat. So then it was, working out in my basement. I had turned and this was before the pandemic. When I had bought my house, I turned my basement into a gym, knowing that if I don't want to go to the gym, if I don't want to go outside because I lived in the Poconos, I'm like, if it's too cold outside, I'm like, I'm just going to go downstairs. I don't feel like going outside. Like, there's my gym downstairs. And then I worked outside. I did cardio. Like, I have an elliptical machine and I have different types of drills that I can do that are kind of like I'm in the ring, but I can do them at home. Like, I was ready. And then when we came back, it was very apparent who took it as a hurdle and who took it as an excuse, because the first guy that I got in the ring with, we were supposed to wrestle for like 15, 20 minutes, and he was completely exhausted 2 minutes in. And it was just
Mm.
like, what are we doing? And then it was like that for like the first 6 or 7 matches that I had coming back from the pandemic. Everybody was out of shape. And it was very frustrating because on top of it, we're supposed to trust that other person with our bodies, with our lives, that we're going to be coming home safe. And if you aren't in the condition that you need to be, and I trust my body with you, and you drop me on my head, then I'm going to have a problem, and you're going to have a problem. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's a much higher level of respect and, again, mindset that we keep talking about.
So, now that you said that, what has been the scariest moment, like in the ring for you? Like, if you ever had that moment in the ring where something could have happened or did happen that could have like ended your career or even your life. So, have you ever had that moment?
I wouldn't say ended life or career. I don't think so. Like, nothing to that nature that I've ever had, like a, holy crap type moment. I mean, I've had my concussions as I was doing it. Like, I remember one match. Remember one match where the padding in the ring started, because it was like 2 foam pads like this, and it started separating like this. So of course my head hit right in between the padding, and I nailed the wood, and it felt like this huge deja vu moment. And then I don't remember anything until I got into the locker room, and then I went out during intermission at that show, and some fan had taken pictures, and he came over to show me all the pictures. And there was one picture where I was on the guy's shoulders, and I was like, I don't remember that. And then I was on the top rope at one point. I'm like, I don't remember that either. So that was kind of like, it was freaky that like I was able to do that while I'm not coherent. So the old phrase of,
Mm.
the lights are on, but no one's home. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely true.
Oh
That
wow.
was pretty crazy. Another time, I was in a match, and I remember this guy was jumping off the top rope, and he was giving me an elbow drop. And as he jumped off the top rope, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, I think he's going to overshoot me, or like he's going too high because he should be aiming for my chest. And I remember looking at him, and then I remember everything going black. And then
Mm.
the next thing I remember, when I did open my eyes, it was weird. I was on my side, and I knew what I just did, but like I never physically experienced it. But then when I opened my eyes, I knew like I was just knocked out for however long it was. So then I said over to the guy, I'm like, give me a second, you just knocked me out. And it was weird that like, I didn't have the experience, but somehow I knew I was knocked out.
Yeah.
So I get to the locker room and I was telling
So
them
hold
that.
on. So before you get to that part, when he kind of knocked you out, was it a moment as far as that particular match? Let me. I don't know if you could say or not. Were you were supposed to win that match, or was he supposed to win the match?
I was supposed to win, and I did win.
So did he have to give you a second in the ring, like y'all just laying there for like 30 seconds, or to catch your wits? Like he act like he was hurt, and you act like you was hurt. Well, you was hurt, but did he act like he was hurt when he did the move, just so to give you a moment to get your wits back to you?
Yeah, it wasn't long because when I was laying on my side, I knew that I was just knocked out, but I'm coherent already, and I was just like, give me a second. And then when he was like yelling at the crowd or whatever he ended up doing, I kind of like just blinked a little bit, and I like kind of did an assessment. I'm like, can I move? Yeah. I'm like, my head hurt? Like, no. And I just kind of like, just assessed myself. I'm like, I think I'm good to go. I'm like, all right, let's keep going. And then we finished the match, so everything was fine. Again, I was just knocked out for that moment. But it was funny that after the match was over, because my wife, who is also a professional wrestler, and she had been with me for quite some time at that point, so she knows when someone covers me and they're going for a pin and I kick out, like I throw them off of me. Like I'm not talking like Big Show or Braun Strowman, but like I kick out because you're trying to tell these people like I don't want to lose, get the hell off of me.
Mm-hmm.
So she came up to me and she was like, "What happened at the elbow drop?" And before I answered that, I'm like, "Why do you say that?" And she's like, "Well, you kicked out, but you didn't kick out as hard as you normally do." And I'm like, "That's because I was knocked out, dear." And she's like, "That makes sense." And then she's like, "Wait, but how are you knocked out?" I was like, "He fell on my head. I was out, but the lights were on." And I was like, "He covered me. I instinctively kicked out." And then when I kicked out and I laid over on my side, that's when I woke up. Like my brain came back on. So it was only for maybe 5 seconds that I was knocked out, but long enough.
So initially, when he covered you, he didn't realize you were knocked out. When he had covered you.
No, he
Oh,
had no idea.
so if you wouldn't have kicked out, he would have won that match.
And the
And
belt.
then,
I'm pretty sure I was the champion at the time.
huh?
I'm pretty sure I was the champion at the time, so he would have been the heavyweight champion as well.
Yeah. So how would that bode well in the locker room with the higher ups, basically?
I think in the situation, when you look at it as a whole, like they probably would have been a little annoyed, but then when you look at it and you're like, oh, this was a serious like health situation, like yeah, there's nothing that we can do. Which is why I'm always adamant to our referees to treat these matches as if it's real. And I'm sure with the long time that you've been watching wrestling, or you've seen clips or whatever, there's a lot of times where the guy is supposed to kick out. So he goes 1, 2, and the ref pulls his arm in or just stops counting because he's waiting for the guy to kick out, and he never does because he's either knocked out or he forgot to kick out, whatever the case is. And then it looks like crap because now it gives away the illusion of like this is a real match. Like it's as if like the lights come on in Broadway. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like killed the moment. So I'm always telling my referees like just count. Like if the wrong guy wins, like we'll figure it out. But like you're never going to be able to come back from if the guy is legitimately knocked out and you don't know he is, and you're like 1, 2, and you're like, oh, wait, what the hell? Like, why didn't you kick out? Oh, he's knocked out. You know what I mean? Like, just do your job. Just be the referee. But, we'll
Because I got a weird brain anyway, because when I'm watching wrestling, I'm literally sometimes watching a person, especially when they're like fighting to the death. And I'm sitting there watching sometimes like, I wonder if if a wrestler in the ring and they just like, I don't feel like doing this tonight. And just lay there and like, and won't kick out. And all of a sudden, like, they, in the back, Vince McMahon, like I'm watching WWE and Vince McMahon and getting back and say, what the hell was that or something like that. So I always think like along those lines because, I remember the whole thing behind Bret Hart years ago. I don't know if you remember that story where they kind of like wronged him in the end where he was like about to retire, and he was supposed
Oh,
to
the
win his
Montreal
last
Screwjob.
match.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he got screwed or whatever. And I was like, so I don't know. That always comes to the back of my mind when I'm watching these big wrestling matches for some reason. So
Yeah, I mean those types of things happen, and but it's always different situations. But yeah, it can get crazy.
yeah. So what is I'm sure matter of fact, you kind of helping me out this morning. So what is your craziest moment as far as something you've seen or you could talk about over the years that like the craziest thing you ever seen or been involved in?
Oh, that's tough. I don't think I've experienced too much I say that, but then I'm gonna randomly be like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." Because now it's getting to the point, and I hate to say it, but I'm getting to the point now where I'm forgetting a lot of the things that have happened, and then someone reminds me, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot about that." I don't think I can't think of anything too crazy off the top of my head. I think the biggest thing for me that, again, the only thing that's really coming to my head right now is when I was working for this company. They were putting me on the fast track. Like I had just debuted for their company, and they were like, "Oh, this kid's making some steam. So we're gonna put everything behind him. Like he's gonna be like one of our next top guys. We just got to build him up." So I was winning match after match after match after match after match. And then they have this big tournament, and it was like, almost easy in this instance to, not say to have me win, but like, you know, um, that I'm at least going to do well in it. And they put me into the tournament. I was super excited because it's a well-known tournament, and we're building it up. And they had me lose in the first round, and I'm like, all right, well, that's kind of weird. I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. I'm like, but again, at the end of the day, like I'm doing what I'm asked to. And then at the time, I was also their mid card champion, and then they put me against their heavyweight champion, who was unstoppable at the time. That was their number one guy, and
Mm,
they put me against him, and then they put title versus title, and I was like, okay. I'm like, that's kind of weird that they would have me lose in the first round and then face him. I'm like, but this is wrestling at the end of the day. I'm not going to ask anything. So
yeah.
it gets to be the day of the show, and me and the guy are going over the match, and they were like, "Hey, we changed it. Just his title is going to be on the line, not yours." And I went, "Okay, no problem." And then we're going over the match, and they're like, "Okay, he's winning. This is how it's doing it." And I'm like, "Okay, no problem." And then so now, we made the match. I know that he's winning. Um, it's his title on the line, not mine. Okay, I know the game plan, blah, blah, blah. So literally, I'm at the curtain, and my match is next. The promoter comes up to me, and he's like, "Hey, before we start the match, I'm going to go out there and announce that the title is on the line. Are you okay with that?" And I'm like, "Yeah," but I was confused. And I'm like, why would he do that? I'm like, the ring announcer's going to do that. And I'm just like, whatever he means, I have no idea what the hell he's talking about. So it wasn't until we get in the ring, both of us are in there. Then the promoter comes out, who was like the boss of the company. He comes out, and he gets on the microphone, and they had me do a run-in earlier that night to help out like another wrestler who he was feuding with specifically. So he comes out, and he's like, "Oh, you want to stick your nose in my business? You want to ruin my plans or whatever? Now your title is going to be on the line also." And I'm like, "Oh, you son of a bitch. Like you're having me lose my title, and you didn't even want to you didn't want to tell me, what were you afraid that I was going to say no? Like what well, I'm like, what is going on now all of a sudden?" Like they had to hide that I was losing and dropping the title. And I was like,
Mm,
this is so weird. Like why is this happening? And I'm like, and then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, and then they had me lose in the first round of the tournament. I'm like, what is going on here? Like what the hell just happened? And it ends up finding out the next month, I'm not even on the poster, and I'm not even in the also featuring. I'm like, I was just like the top guy, one of the top guys. I'm like, why am I not even being mentioned? And then I reached out to him. I don't think we're going to be using you moving forward. I'm like, what the fuck happened? What,
yeah.
out of nowhere? And then we have a conversation about it, and he ends up telling me that I said something in the locker room that rubbed people the wrong way, and that they're just not going to use me anymore. And I'm like, okay, well, what did I do? And they're like, well, we can't tell you that. And I'm like, so how am I supposed to learn from this? I'm like, how are you going to punish me? I not learn what I said and what I should have said or how I should have said it. Like, I can't learn from this. I can't grow from this. I can't apologize to the right people for, upsetting them or disrespecting that, whatever I did. I'm like, you have to tell me what I did. And then they didn't have, they literally didn't tell me. And then on top of it, they were like, oh, well, we put you in the tournament and we don't think you took it serious. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, well, you didn't really promote it. And I was like, how did I not promote it? I'm like, they're like, well, we didn't see you post about it a lot on Facebook. I said, do you follow me on Instagram? And they're like, no. I'm like, do you follow me on Twitter? And they're like, no. And I'm like, I've literally been doing double workouts for the past 3 weeks, getting prepared for this tournament, which I've been promoting on my social media for the past 3 weeks. So I'm like, try again. I'm like, you just saw the wrong page. So they never told me what I did. So I still don't know. And
Your body.
there we go. You hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Technical issues. So yeah, we had that conversation. He ended up putting me on the next show. I was never let go. They just kept using me, but to me, again, off the top of my head, that was the craziest thing that I can think of as an experience. No one getting stabbed or no one getting shot. And, I take that back. I'll tell you a quick story. My apologies. A buddy of mine. It didn't happen to me. A buddy of mine. He was a heel in the main event, and I wasn't watching the match. I think I was just in the locker room, and they went outside the ring, and the guy that he was facing was a head coach to a little league football team, right? So the babyface goes up to my buddy and he's like, hey, do you mind if when we're wrestling outside, if I hold your arms back and I hold you back, and then I can have the little kids come up and chop you across the chest, and we'll just go down the line. And he's like, oh yeah, absolutely. I don't care about that. So they go to do it, holds his arms back, kid 1, kid 2, kid 3, kid 4. This drunk fan stands up and punches my friend in the mouth.
Oh my God.
Legitimately punches him in the mouth, knocks his tooth out. He's bleeding all over the place. The guy punched him so hard that his knuckle broke off and his whole hand peeled back. And my friend couldn't even react because he's in the middle of a match.
Yeah.
And they had to keep going. And they took the fan out. He kept wrestling. He does the match. He finishes. He gets through the curtain. And he legitimately kicked the door. There's a door to get to outside. He kicked the door off the frame. That's how hard he kicked it, and he lost it. Of course, of course. He's more than allowed to do that.
Exactly.
He lost his mind. He had to go to the hospital, and then he had to get, he got all of his blood tested because they're like, well, he bled and you bled, so we want to make sure that nothing was contracted or anything like that. He had to go through all of these testings, and then the thing that topped it on the most, the promoter of the company got the bill for the door breaking, and the promoter tried giving it to him to be like, hey man, you owe me for this door. And I'm like, no, he does not. No, he does not. You should have had better security. I'm like, that's your fault for not having good security and having drunk fans in the audience that then attacked your wrestlers.
Yeah.
My buddy didn't pay it. Absolutely not. That's a crazy moment.
And that's kind of crazy because, being that y'all are in such a high violent sport and with everything that's going on and a lot of activity, that when things happen, you have to keep your composure. And I know that those moments, that probably had to be very difficult for him to understand what he has to do in the wrestling ring. Because I know a lot of it is, oh, I'm about to do this and I'm about to do that, be prepared to the other wrestler. So now you got to keep your wits about you. You got to understand exactly where you're at in the match, and know what you have to do next to get through the match, and for him to probably have to like navigate through all that in his head, and at the same time thinking, I can't believe this Joker just hit me in my mouth. You know what I'm saying? I want to jump out in there and beat the mess out of him, but I can't. So now I got to get through this. So I commend him just for doing that. So let me ask you a question: who is the wrestler, or who did you have you met in your time that you knew that you said, okay, I arrived because I finally met this particular wrestler. We actually had a conversation, or we actually whatever. Who was that one wrestler, or a couple of wrestlers, or a few wrestlers that you've met?
Well, I mean, I've gotten to work with Vince McMahon, on a segment for Raw, so that was pretty insane. I've gotten to work with Triple H on another segment for Raw, like that was pretty insane. So like getting to work with them and actually learn from them is pretty crazy. So
How was Vince McMahon's personality? I know people get kind of that. Some people kind of get what you call, I guess, that Trump vibe from him, or they get, or that kind of butthole type of vibe from him. So what is he really like?
it's tough because it's like, did I catch him on a good day? You know what I mean? Or did I catch him on a bad day, but it seemed good for me? Like you know what I mean? Like I haven't been around him enough to say, oh no, he's a super nice guy, or you know what I mean? Like I got to work with him once, and like the other times that I've gotten to work for WWE, I've seen him around, the backstage area and stuff like that. Like I'll pass him and say hello and whatnot, but I don't get to work with him directly enough, like in order
Yeah,
to make that type of judgment on, okay, this is my opinion of Vince McMahon. The only opinion that I do have of Vince is he's super smart and he's super successful for a reason, because he tells you about things that you didn't even think were in the thought process of like putting something together, or how things work. It is pretty crazy. um I feel like for me, just like a moment of of a reality hit was when I think it was like the second or third time that I got to be at WWE, and I was in a tag match on Superstars, and I'm just getting squashed. I was getting the crap kicked out of me, and that's fine. But like, Ricky Steamboat was he was my agent for the match, and he's somebody that I very much try to emulate with my style
mhm.
and how I look, because they say that I look like him, I wrestle
Yeah.
like him.
When you said it, I didn't want to say it, but when you said it, I said, hey, look like him too. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I try to, I think that's a great, compliment to, for me to say that I, look like him, because he was huge.
Yeah.
But, and, he was just a great wrestler. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, he was my agent, and he talked to me for like an hour, about how to be a really good baby face and how to do this and how to do that. And like a lot of the time that he was talking, I'm like kind of just staring at him, and in my, like, I could hear him, but I wasn't really listening for a moment, because in my head I'm like, there's people that pay hundreds of dollars to hear him speak and to get advice from him, and I'm getting paid to learn from him. And I was like,
Hmm.
like that, like I was more or less like, take the moment in right now,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
and be appreciative of how much he's helping you. And then ever since then, every time I see him, I like take my chair and I come and sit down. I'm like, all right, we're gonna talk. And
Yeah.
because now I'm like, I want to soak up everything that you can. um but no, super nice guy. Really smart. Obviously he's super successful for a reason. But yeah, I think if I had to pick a moment, it was probably that, where I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I'm getting to go do some cool stuff here.
Yeah. Because you're a world champion now, right? Or you?
I am the Rage Television Champion for MCW. I was
Okay.
the heavyweight champion for MCW before the pandemic. Then the world got shut down. And then during the lockdown in Maryland, one of somebody that has a huge void that is in MCW right now. His name was Bruiser. Um, And he was a wrestler. He helped backstage. He was the head coach of the school. Like he just did so much for MCW. He was diagnosed with cancer, I think before the pandemic, and then he was battling it during the pandemic. If I had to remember the timeline, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But to make a long story short, he ended up passing, over that time frame of the pandemic, and we couldn't come back yet. But what we were able to do was we were able to do a studio taping, and I won my match. I retained the title, and then I relinquished the title to his kids and his family, so that he could be the heavyweight champion one more time before he passed. And then after that, when we came back, then the heavyweight championship was obviously vacant. So then we just had a bruiser, Royal Rumble, Battle Royal, whatever you would like to call it. And then we crowned the new MCW heavyweight champion, which I was very, very close. I started at number 2, and I lasted all the way until the end. Oh, my microphone's messing up. My apologies.
You good.
Technical difficulties. We crowned the new MCW champion, almost won it, but I will be facing the new MCW heavyweight champion, which is Brian Johnson, not this weekend, but the following weekend, October 16th in Maryland. It'll be title versus title, I believe, for that one with me and Brian. So I'm excited. So hopefully we get that one back.
Oh, okay, cool. Did you ever meet like New Jack? Because I know New Jack was real crazy.
I've met New Jack, but I stayed away from New Jack because I'm very much like I'm people are going to live their lives the way that they want, and I'm like, well, I'm going to make sure that I'm protecting mine. And I never wanted to be around New Jack enough to the point where I'm like, if he's about to do something, I should not be in the vicinity of, I'm like, I'm just gonna be somewhere else.
Yeah. Because I heard he was like where if he liked you, you knew it. If he didn't, he didn't, and it might be a problem if he did. So that's what I've heard over the last couple of times. Because last couple of wrestlers that I've interviewed, that it was like New Jack, one of them people. If he like you, he mess with you, but if he don't, and it might be an issue. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So do you watch football at all? Are you into football?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay. So, because since you're on here, we do talk sports and everything. I was gonna get out with my partner. He couldn't make it on this morning, so I was like, well, shoot, I'll get my man to help me out. I like to do the picks for the week, so I like to go through the games and pick each team. So I'm gonna have you do it with me this morning, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first game I got is the Titans versus the Jets.
I mean, the Jets are the Jets. That's not a hard one to bet on.
Yeah, you're right. So we both agree with the Titans. So I got the Lions versus the Bears.
That one's tough because the Bears are coming out. They just lost that. They lost last week, right? They got destroyed last week.
They really they look really pathetic. Justin Fields did not have a great showing, but I don't think that's his fault. I think that was more the game plan. I don't think he's ready to be out there yet. So I think that was more the plan, the game plan for him more than it was his fault. So they're not looking good at all. The Lions, well, it's a twofold thing for me. I have a great nephew who's a defensive tackle for the Lions right now.
Oh, awesome.
And then also, I just feel like the last couple of weeks that the Lions have showed, even though they're not winning, they show improvement by playing hard. And they're in almost every game. It was a heartbreaker last week with that record-breaking kick that they lost to the Ravens. So I really want them to get this win today or whatever. And I feel like they may get it. I think Jared Goff is a good enough quarterback to help maybe get them over the hump for that first victory. So I'm gonna pick the Lions in that one.
Yeah, I think the Lions. I think the Lions will probably pull it off. I mean, they at least have the momentum on their side, but I also love a comeback story. So if the Bears can bounce back, I love those types of things. where they're just like, oh, they just got punched in the mouth. They're like, all right, here we go, and then they they make.
Well, see, it's kind of funny because both of them dealing with that same scenario.
Yeah.
It's like who do you root for more? Do you root for the Bears getting throttled, or do you root for the Lions who lost a heartbreaker and they're kind of a young team?
Always the Bears in that instance because they got destroyed, whereas the Lions, like, it was just a field goal and an NFL record, field goal. Like, that's not one that's like, that's like guarding somebody and all of a sudden they just throw up like a behind the no look. They just kind of and it went in. You're like, there's nothing we can do. You know what I mean? Like that's a one play difference of an entire game where, like, oh man, if only we got this first down, maybe that would have changed everything. But getting destroyed, there's like a nothing went well. So I'm rooting for the Bears to win. But if I had to bet money, the momentum's in the Lions, so I would stick with the Lions.
Okay, so the next one is the Colts versus the Dolphins.
The Dolphins aren't looking bad. Like, surprisingly, I mean, in my opinion, they're not looking as dolphiny as they've had in the past. So that's a tough one. But I like my man. I like Tua though.
That's the thing. I think Tua's still out.
Oh, he's still hurt. Oh,
yeah,
damn.
I think Tua's still hurt. So I think they got, is it Jacoby Brissett?
All right.
So I think it's Jacoby Brissett, but yeah, he's out. I think for at least another 2-3 more weeks.
Yeah, that's my.
I mean, I'm not a Carson Wentz fan. I've never been, but I think because of the quarterback situation and they have a few more weapons. I think the Colts will win it. I think it'll be a tight game, just because, like I said, I don't trust Carson Wentz or whatever. So he makes things harder than what it needs to be anyway by himself. So I'm gonna pick the Colts to win it. I'm gonna pick the Colts slightly, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way.
No, I agree.
The Browns versus the Vikings.
Browns.
I'm gonna pick the Browns, but the Vikings is a very weird team. The Vikings is probably the weirdest team in the NFL to me because you never know what you're gonna get. The last week they beat I think the Seahawks by 17 points. But then this week they'll mess around and get killed, and you'll be like, what happened? Like, this don't even like the same team. I'm not sure. I think Dalvin Cook is back this week. He didn't even play last week, so I didn't even think to pick Minnesota because I didn't think that Kirk Cousins could win a game without his workhorse in the backfield, but they managed to pull it off and pulled it off very impressively. So I'm gonna pick the Browns slightly just because their defense is so good like right now. But I wouldn't. It's kind of weird. But anyway, Washington versus the Falcons. I'm gonna say Washington already because that's my team. I am actually about to go to the game too because I'm here in Atlanta right now.
Oh, there you go.
But you let me know what you think.
Man, because both, I feel like both are hit or miss too. But I mean, since I'm on your show and you're a Washington fan, I guess I'll go with Washington, even though my team is in the NFC East, so that doesn't help me in it. But we're doing terrible anyway. So
who your team? The Giants?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Right now.
Well, I mean, my thing I have to see with Washington today is the defensive line. They supposed to come in top 5, and they're playing like top lower 25. They're not playing up to their expectation yet. So I know sometimes when you have expectation, especially from one year to the next, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get that going. So hopefully they start showing that they are their top 5 defense because you got 4 number 1 picks on that front line and 2 of them from Alabama. So I'm pretty sure you can get it together. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, but next I got the Texans versus the Bills.
I'll honestly say I haven't been following the Texans or the Bills. I haven't really heard them as much as I'm hearing other teams. So I honestly wouldn't even be able to make a pick. Okay.
I would say definitely the Bills. The Bills they killed my team last week, Washington. I was kind of fun, weird how they lost to the Steelers game 1, but they have a great offense. Josh Allen is top 5 quarterback in the league to me right now.
Yeah.
And Houston is a hot mess with Deshaun Watson situation and whatever. It's just a hot mess down there. So I wouldn't even think to pick them. Um, um, but anyway, next I got the Giants versus the Saints. Oh, I already know what you're gonna say.
The Saints. I'm going with the Saints. This is
Oh,
a
really?
who do I think is going to win? The Saints are going to win because
Yeah.
they will destroy us. The Giants, man, we can't get it together, and it's year after year, and I feel like it's the same problems that we just can't fix. And I think our number one problem right now is our offensive line, because we're giving up consistent sacks and like key sacks, when we're trying to march down the field or within field goal range, those types of things. But my number one problem that I think is we can't get our run game going. So if we can't get our run game going, it just obviously collapses everything else, which starts with our offensive line. So I think that's our big one. Our defense isn't helping either. I think we're ranked in like the top 20, or not top 20, but like in the 20th.
20.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
bottom 20, excuse me, of everything like that. So our defense has to step up as well. I had this conversation with a fellow Giant the other week, and he thinks it's, no, get rid of Garrett, no, get rid of this. And I'm like, yeah, you could argue that, but I'm like, again, at the end of the day, like, the people have to perform on the field, and we're not performing. So
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of time what teams do too fast. That as soon as they start playing bad, they want to get rid of the coaches, and then of course the fans get all emotional. They want the team to get rid of the coaches before they really have a chance. That's why I kind of like have respect for certain teams like the Steelers and certain teams that keep a coach around. Now sometimes they keep a coach around too long, like they did in Cincinnati when they had what's the name, Marvin Lewis around too long. But at the same time, I get it where like if you have in this Pittsburgh, but people don't know Pittsburgh has only had, I think, 4 NFL coaches in their history. So they've
oh
only
wow.
had, yeah, so it's only like 4, and it's like that's crazy or whatever. So they don't, like, if they have a down season or a couple of, average seasons, they don't just automatically get rid of the coaches. They, whatever. So I do commend them for that. So, but yeah, I definitely, for me, I probably will pick the Saints. I think it's gonna be closer than we may think, because I think the
I'm hoping.
Giants have. I watched them play, especially when they played against us at Washington. They have some promising things about them. They have some things, some positive things going on. So and the Saints are still trying to figure themselves out since Drew Brees left. So they may catch the Saints slipping. Now the Saints probably will beat them because they're at home, and it's almost impossible to beat the Saints at home over the last 10 years.
Yeah,
So
but yeah, it's. I feel like, again, it's been the same issue with the Giants, where we have all of these other positives about the team, but I think it's been our offensive line for quite some time. I mean, even dating back to Eli, when they were like, "Oh yeah, Eli's done, Eli's done." I'm like, you realize, I'm like, they're throwing the stat in front of you. He's been getting sacked more times this season than he has in his entire career. So what do you want this man to do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not protecting him. What do you want him to do? And then when on top of it, I don't think we had Saquon at the time. So I'm like, our run game is terrible. He's getting sacked every damn play. I'm like, what do you want this man to do? Why do you think it's his? You know what I mean? Like, people like make their judgment, and instead of like looking at, like, hey, let's look at the whole thing. Like, what kind of trickles down here? And I'm like, especially when the professional commentators are on the screen being like, man, Eli needs to get him some help, and then the fans are like, damn you, Eli. And I'm like, are you not listening? Are you not listening to the game?
yeah. All right, next we got the Chiefs and the Eagles.
Okay, so being an NFC East fan, I despise the Eagles. And I honestly wish that the Philadelphia Eagles weren't even a team anymore. I wish that it was illegal for Philadelphia to have a team. That's like it.
Hey, it's funny you say that, because the people that I'm partnered up with this CEV Sports, that we partnered up with this, they the I guess you would say the owners or the founders. They're Eagles fans, but that's
Oh
funny you
man.
say that.
Well, this episode's getting canceled. No, I mean overall, like it was always funny because like I'm in Florida now, but I was born and raised in Pennsylvania, and when I was getting older, and then I'm able to go to games. Like a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, she's an Eagles fan, and she was always like, "Let's go to a game. Let's go to a Giants Eagles game." And I'm like, "I'm going to New York. No, I'm going to Philly. Absolutely not." And if I'm going to Philly, I'm wearing a normal ass t-shirt. I'm not wearing a jersey. Absolutely not. I'm trying to go and enjoy the game. I'm not trying to fight. I'm not trying to get stuff thrown at me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's more or less the fans of Philly, not necessarily Philly.
yeah.
Those Philly Eagles fans are rough.
That's how I am about the Cowboys. Like it's not. I told my partner that's usually on here. He's a Cowboys fan, and I said it's not the fact that I hate the Cowboys. I just don't like y'all because
Yeah.
y'all are so obnoxious and y'all just think y'all gonna win every year, and y'all can beat y'all can beat a high school team, and y'all posting on Facebook how y'all beat the crap
How
out of a
them
high school team.
boys? How them
Yeah,
boys? They're very
yeah,
delusional. I will say. I will say.
exactly.
But all right, so Philly and the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, the Philly and the
Yeah.
Chiefs.
Oh, Chiefs all day. Chiefs all
Yeah,
day. I don't care if the Chiefs were 0-4 and Philly was 4-0. I would still pick the Chiefs.
yeah,
Just
exactly.
just
So.
out of spite, but no.
You said and it's funny you say that because on the next game we got the Panthers versus the Cowboys, and I refuse to give the Cowboys a nod. I always say the other team,
Yeah.
so I'm always going to say the Panthers. You know what
If
I mean?
but
Regardless.
if I was a betting man, I would probably put it on Dallas because they were looking pretty.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
looking really good last game, so they got momentum on their side, and they've been looking good all season. To be quite honest,
yeah.
that first game was
Sad to say.
decent. Yeah, yeah.
sad,
So
sad to say. I had to give it up to my partner last week. I said, "Look, bro, either much as it pains me to say this, the Cowboys look real good or whatever.
of
Now the only
course,
thing with the Cowboys, he called my partner called me Stephen A. Smith Jr. But I say the thing about it is what can go wrong will go wrong in Dallas.
yep,
So they can have it all together on the field, and all of a sudden off the field something happens to derail what's on the field
yep,
or whatever, or they'll have now not wishing an injury, but they'll have a big injury again, like they did the last couple of years that'll derail it. So I say, so I'm just betting on not betting on the injury part, but I'm betting on something to go wrong for them not to win. You know what I'm
yep. I
saying?
agree.
You know, but anyway, Seahawks versus the Niners.
Ooh, even the Niners are getting steam, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
they've been playing pretty good. I think they lost. They lost to the Green Bay Packers, but Brett for I mean
but
Aaron
geez,
Rodgers.
Lord, Aaron freaking Rodgers being Aaron
Yeah,
freaking Rodgers.
exactly.
Seahawks and nine. I'm gonna go Niners. I'll go Niners that game.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me. Because both of them did lose last week, and Russell Wilson's such a competitor that he is. I'm gonna go with the Seahawks on this one slightly,
Okay.
just because.
Now
I mean, my
I
brother.
gotta watch out for that. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, brother,
Jason is a
I'm
Niners
Niners
fan.
fan.
My brother, he's a
Yeah,
Niners fan, but I'm gonna go with the Seahawks on this one. He might be mad at me, but he'll get over it.
yeah, but Jason's also old and senile, so what am I supposed to believe?
I know that's right. I'm glad you said it because I tell him all the time I might be older, but I'm better looking and I'm smarter. So anyway, the Cards versus the Rams.
Chargers and Rams.
No,
Uh,
Cardinals and
yeah, I was
Rams.
like, all right. Cardinals and Rams. Rams all day. Rams all day. If I
Yeah,
would,
yeah, they looking good, real good. I think actually they're actually I picked the beginning of the season for Tampa to make it to the Super Bowl, but actually watching the game last week, I feel like right now as we sit today, the Rams are the better team. You know what I'm saying? Of course, you can never bet against Tom Brady, but I just think right now the Rams just look like the more complete team to me. So I just think they're
I
going to
agree.
keep that ball rolling, especially against a divisional rival. And I like the Cardinals. I like Kyler Murray and what they got going on. But I just think that the Rams are just more put together and they're at home. So I think they'll win that game. Steelers and the Packers.
Packers. Packers.
Yeah,
And I say that
Steelers
too
looking pathetic.
if my buddy is watching because he's a big Steelers fan. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, the Steelers looking real bad so far. Like I think this is definitely his swan song. I think this is it for him. Because he's starting to look like he's like Brady don't look like he's 44. Like Ben looks every bit of 38 or whatever age
yeah,
he is, 39. Yeah, he
or
looks
older. Like if you told me that Roethlisberger was 46, I'd be like, yeah, you're right.
Yep. Exactly. So we got the Ravens versus the Broncos.
That's tough because Ravens are
Yeah.
coming off of that good one. Since I have so many boys that are from Maryland, I'll go with the Ravens.
Yeah, yeah, and because the only thing with the Broncos defense is playing hella good right now. But I'm gonna stick with Lamar Jackson to make a few more plays. I think it's gonna be a close game, but I think he'll make a few more plays to win it. Then
I
we
want to see.
have,
I want to see Justin Tucker just sitting on a throne on the sidelines, like just waiting, like with a glass of wine. Like, do you need me yet? Like just shaking it around.
exactly, exactly, because he's
Let me
probably the
know.
greatest kicker of all time. If by the time he finishes his career, he's gonna be the greatest kicker of all time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So Bucks versus Patriots.
Oh, that's the toughie. Because Gronk's out now, right? I heard that Gronk's out.
Is it? Oh, I didn't. First I've heard about that one.
Hang on, no, I might have misread. Hang on one second. I'm looking it up now. That would be a. Well, okay, yeah. So it says NFL rumors from 2 days ago. Gronkowski has multiple fractured ribs. 21 hours ago. Not traveling with the team, won't play with the yeah. So Gronk's not playing, as reported by the NFL 21 hours ago. So in that instance, because that's tough, that's a big piece. But Tom Brady is Tom Brady. But I can't wait to watch this matchup because I want to see how Tom is going to be accepted in New England, which he should only get cheers. I mean, that man won you so many damn Super Bowls.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's so tough. But Patriots are still they're struggling though.
Yeah, they're struggling real bad.
Yeah, so I'm going with Bucks. I'm absolutely going with Bucks.
I just be honest with you. I think even without Grunt, the Bucks are gonna murder. They're gonna kill him because I just think that Brady and then his team gonna be behind him, and I just think Brady wants his win so bad, and I just think the Patriots don't have enough bullets in their gun right now to compete with Brady and what he got going on in Tampa. So that's really because Bill Belichick is gonna maybe do certain things to try to keep the game close. But when you go into a gunfight with a knife, I just don't think you just got a chance. And I think that's what the Patriots are doing. So
yeah, and I just love Tom Brady's mindset so much. Just the way that he talks about, like, because on top of it, before that barbershop episode came out, everyone just thought that Tom Brady was just like, like just another quarterback, like just another good quarterback. And then you hear about how cutthroat he is of his mindset and how he's a player, man. He's good. Like he's on that Jordan level mindset. And that's what I love to hear. That's what I love listening to.
So last but not least, we have the Raiders versus the Chargers.
I would go Chargers in that instance.
Okay, yeah. So, well, I'm at my sister's house in Atlanta, and my brother-in-law is a huge Raiders fan. So I'm gonna ride with him today,
All right,
or whatever.
okay.
So because I know he's so big of a fan, he travels around the country to watch them at times.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so he's a huge. But he's actually giving me my tickets today for me to go to see Washington and Atlanta. So
there you go.
I'm gonna ride with him all day with the Raiders. I do like the Chargers though. I like Justin Herbert and what they're doing. I think he's gonna be top 5 quarterback within the next year or two. Or whatever, if he's, so he's definitely on his way. I like Derek Carr too. I think people don't give Derek Carr as much credit as he should get, but I definitely like that. I would take Derek Carr with Washington tomorrow. or whatever, but yeah, but anyway, brother, I want to proper appreciate you coming on here, giving me your time this morning. I wish you all the success in the world, moving forward. Can you let everybody know your social medias or where they can find you and follow you and all the good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that want to follow me on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, it's at KeKoa Pro. As you see my name down here in the bottom corner. So yeah, KeKoa Pro, PRO. You can also follow me on TikTok, but it'll be at KeKoa HW because somebody took KeKoa Pro and I'm still fighting with them about it because I'm like, I don't even know why you need it. You don't even use TikTok. Give me that name back. But yeah, you guys can follow me on all that social media. You can always catch me every month and multiple times a month with MCW in the Maryland area if y'all are listening to that. But essentially, always keep an eye out on my social because I travel very, very much with wrestling. So if I ever come to a town, please head out into a show. I promise you, I'll make it worth your money. And come meet me at intermission and let me know that I told you to come out. So I'm excited. And thank you
Okay,
very much for having me, man. I can't thank you enough for offering the spot for me.
I appreciate it, brother. You have a good rest of your day.
You as well, sir. Take care.
All right, you too. So anyway, y'all, that was Kiko, great wrestler, MCW. I think he's the race champion on MCW right now. So I appreciate him coming on. I appreciate everybody from watching and tuning in today. Like I told you before, at the beginning of the show, we have our 910 Sports Reloaded show on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. And that's just kind of review of the weekend. It's a little bit more, I guess you could say, uncensored or uncut or whatever you want to call it. We go in even lead deeper to these games and kind of break them down even more. Now I'm gonna say every game, but like the most important games over the weekend or the most intriguing games. So we break those down: college football, basketball, football, everything. So that's gonna be 10 p.m. this Tuesday, or whatever, on the stereo app. So please follow us on there and subscribe to us on there or whatever. So and then you can chime in with us if you have any questions and comments and things of that nature. Also, I have the www.cogradio.net. That's my own radio station that I have. So please, follow me on there. It's great music. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week music on there. Also, I'm also, for those that may be listening, I'm an FMM broker. So if you need radio campaigns, let me know there on that aspect. I can help you get on radio. If you, I have an artist group, Dove 3. Please follow them. They have a new album out called Toxic that's doing very well on streaming networks. So please pick up that album and follow them. They're R&B rap group, but they're very good. I guarantee you'll enjoy it. So we're just gonna keep this train going or whatever, and y'all continue to follow me. So until next Sunday, 9 a.m. every Sunday morning. We're actually looking to go to 2 hours. So we're working on that now. It may actually start next Sunday that we go to a 2 hour segment instead of a 1 hour segment, because a lot of the stuff that we do that we want to do, we can't get to because of the interviews and because of just time constraints or whatever. But we may end up going to 2 hours just to give people more content of what we're doing and kind of break down stuff more or whatever. But anyway, we'll see y'all next week. So this your boy Icon. Holla.